Good day, students. You're welcome to history class. And today's topic is Benin Artifacts. In our last topic, we talked about the origin of the Benin people or the Edo people, where we talked about how they got to their present location from ancient Egypt through Sudan and Ife till they finally migrated to their present location. And we talked about how Osanobua sent his 3 sons. So today I want to look at the artifacts. What are artifacts? I know it's not a new word to us, but artifacts in history can be said to be man-made objects. Look at the word man-made objects. That means they were not divinely made, they were made by men, used to understand the people of the past. They used them to understand the occupation, their culture, and the likes. So today we want to talk about the artifacts made by the Benin people. And also, artifacts is made by the present generation as a culture, but it serves as artifact to coming generation. What do I mean? The culture of a people has to do with the total way of life, isn't it? So when these things are made, like this object, like I said earlier, man-made objects, when these objects are made, and when those generations that have made them have gone, it becomes artifacts to those people that are coming in future. Do you get that? Yes. And now we move on to Benin artifacts properly. They consist of materials like iron, bronze, wood, ivory, and terracotta. I'll take that again. Benin artifact consists of all materials like iron, bronze, wood, ivory, and terracotta. And what were these artifacts used for? They were used to produce weapons, farm implements, even kitchen utensils like pots and other things. Yes. Also, the artists who produced these artifacts were grouped into associations known as guilds. It's spelled G-U-I-L-D-S. They were grouped into an association called guilds. The most important of this association is the Bronze Casters Guild. When I was mentioning the materials that they use, I mentioned something like bronze. Yes, that is the most important of these associations. It is the Bronze Casters Guild. These people worked and lived in the palace. You can underline the word, they worked and lived in the palace. We are talking, this is history, so our tenses should be in the past. They worked and lived in the palace under the control of the Oba. Somebody may be wondering why the word Oba and not other titles. The title for the king of Benin is known as Oba. So you have Oba of Benin. They produced artworks to decorate the palace of the Oba. That was their basic responsibility. And also, since they were assigned with this responsibility, they were not allowed to sell any of these artifacts to members of the public, as this attracted death penalty. Is that taken? Also, some of these artifacts also included animal figures like leopards and crocodiles. And what does this signify? These two animals were used to demonstrate the power of the Oba. At times, they may make them into things like footstool that they place their feet on. Is that taken? Or like sitting chairs that they sit on. But they were just majorly used to demonstrate the powers of the Obas. And also, most of these bronze works were looted during the British conquest of Benin, or what we know as Benin Expedition of 1897. That was a period when the British conquered Benin, and most of these artifacts were looted. Today in British Museum, we can find most of these Benin artifacts there. And this takes us to the characteristics of Benin culture or artifact. Characteristics of Benin culture or artifact. When I was explaining Benin artifact the other time, I made mention of culture and artifact. You agree with me that culture is the total way of life of a group of people, includes their dressing, music, but not limited to those things. And artifacts are these man-made objects that are used to understand the past activities of those people who have actually resided in a particular place and at a particular time. One of these characteristics is that important personalities or royal figures showing the head, the neck, part of the shoulders and breast. You agree with me, when you see a Benin artifact or the human head, it shows the head, the neck, part of the shoulders and towards the breast region. Another one there is the beaded necks. Even to date, you see them having beads all over their necks, as if the bead, they want to get choked by these beads. At times, depending on the status or hierarchy of those chiefs, it gets to the abdomen at times to the chest region, but you always see them with beaded necks. Then the third one is that most Benin artworks are produced or made from bronze and ivory. You know, I told you the other time when I was talking about Benin artifacts that their materials consist of, they made use of bronze and ivory. Somebody may want to ask, Auntie, what is ivory? You know, this our elephant tusk. Is that taken? This thing like that looks like on, or our rhinoceros. Rhinoceros has something that looks like on at the nose. Yes, it's not as if they go to the elephant to take these tusks. No, it has like a powdery white substance they use in making these things. At times they use it in making staff for some chiefs and some important personalities. Also, number 4 there is appearance of British soldiers. Yes, at one time or the other in the history of the Benin, the British soldiers, when they came for the British expedition, when they came to conquer Benin in 1897, they didn't just come in 1897 to conquer them. It was one activity that led to the other. Also, at one point, there was a festival in Benin which foreigners were not allowed to come in when the initiates were having their coronations or the festival. And so the British soldiers forcefully went there and they died. So it shows that the British soldiers were at one time or the other present in Benin. The 5th one there is that leopards appeared in many Benin bronze works. I said earlier the other time that they made animal figures like crocodiles and leopard, which were used to show the prowess or the powers of this Oba. And at times they make them into rugs or footstools, at times their chairs, at times their staff and other things. And this also takes us to the occupational activities of the Edo or Benin people, what they were doing to make life comfortable for themselves, what they were doing to earn a living. This is what we want to look at. One of it is brass casting, or what we know as bronze casting. Don't forget, one of the materials they used was bronze. Now, Benin brass casters, they were specialists. Even to date, they are still specialists in making different kinds of bronze work. Most of the looted works in Europe today, in British Museum especially today, were made with bronze. The second one there is blacksmithing. Blacksmithing, I did not say goldsmithing. There's a difference between goldsmithing and blacksmithing. Goldsmithing is the process of refining gold into things like jewelries and other ornament, while blacksmithing is the process of smelting iron into farm implements, you know, our kitchen utensils and all that. So these people are actually experts in production of farm implements like our cutlasses, machetes, hoes and the rest, different weapons, even gunpowders and kitchen, various kinds of kitchen utensils. The third one there, another occupational activities, is farming. Farming, they did in 2 levels. One is the cultivation of crops and the other one is rearing of animals. Cultivation of crops, they cultivated crops like yam, beans, cocoyam, soya beans, groundnut, pepper and the rest. They domesticated animals like cattle, sheep, goats and dogs. Dogs were not, it served different purposes for them. One, security purposes, other pets, and some, you know, for consumption. Then 4th one is weaving. You agree with me, they will put on clothes and other accessories. Weaving, the planting of cotton, probably because of the nature and the tedious the tedious nature of plantation, were majorly left for the men to be done, to be handled. The men were responsible for the plantation, while the women wove this cotton into different kinds of clothes. Then the fifth one is wood carving. Wood carving. Wood is also part of the materials they use. They are good in different production of different objects from carved wood. Then also we have trading. You agree with me, when people produce in surplus, either for consumption, they will always sell the surplus. Is that taken? They traded in palm oil and other materials like pepper, all those things they produce. They traded with their neighboring towns and even with the Europeans through the system known as trade by barter. What is trade by barter? Is a system of exchanging goods for goods and services for services. That period, money was not in use. Money, currency, was not in use. So the system there was trade by barter. When Mr. A, for instance, had beans and he felt like eating rice, he looked for people or anybody with rice and he exchanged with. That is that about the occupational activities of Edo or Benin people. Don't forget, we looked at Benin artifacts. We talked about the characteristics of Benin culture and artifacts, and lastly we also looked at their various occupational activities. In our subsequent classes, we'll be talking about the significance or the importance of Benin in Nigeria history. Why Benin? Somebody may want to ask. We've talked about Benin artifact. What is the importance? So that is what we'll be looking at in our next class. Thank you.